2020 saw a scaled-down Labor Day march, as only 2 representatives of each labor union were allowed to participate in the annual march from Avocat to Charlie King Junction. But less participants didn't prevent trade unionists from airing concerns. Khrystal Wilson tells us labor leaders ensured their voices were heard.
COVID-19 restrictions resulted in a smaller-sized march for Labor Day this year. But in the grand scheme of things, labor leaders still managed to ensure their voices were heard. Following a wreath-laying ceremony at the tomb of Uriah Buzz Butler at the Faisabad Public Cemetery, Joint Trade Union Movement leader ANCEL ROGET pledged to continue the labor struggle, which he says began some 84 years ago.
Our pledge this morning is to fearlessly confront all of those who we know are against us, and boy, I tell you, they are many. But such is the resolve of those who do God's work and who are protected by Almighty God. We fear absolutely none of them.
President of the Registered Nurses Association, STUART, lamented the disrespect healthcare professionals continue to face despite their fight for betterment.
Of the lack of respect, the lack of consultation, the lack of understanding that you need to meet with the persons, the stakeholders within the profession before you make decisions.
And President of the Trinidad and Tobago Unified Teachers Association, ANTONIA de FREITAS, called for safer working conditions for the nation's educators.
Take us out of schools which are overcrowded. Going forward, colleagues, let us remember that as TTUTA, we talk not only about our members, we talk about the children. And we are fearful that in the next few months, certain inequities that we have taken for granted within our system will be exacerbated.
Meanwhile, President of the Unified Farmers Association said this year might be his last year taking part in the labor celebrations. He's hoping to make a switch to politics.
This might be, and I hope it will be, my last appearance as the president of the Farmers Union here, because I'm embarking on an independent candidacy in the Chaguanas East election.
This year's march from Avocat Junction to Charlie King Junction in Faisabad was streamed live on Facebook. Khrystal Wilson, TTT News.
President General of the Joint Trade Union Movement, ANCEL ROGET, is calling on the government to urgently make amendments to the Retrenchment and Severance Benefits Act and the Companies Act. During his Labor Day address at Charlie King Junction, the leader of the Oilfield Workers Trade Union also called for the process for recognition of trade unions to be simplified.
The onerous process of gaining recognized majority union status only facilitates the employers who use every legal loophole to deny their workers and who victimize their workers for even attempting to exercise their constitutional right to join a trade union of their choice.
The JTUM leader also wants the government to settle all outstanding wage negotiations, some from as far back as 2007.
This afternoon, we call on the Minister of Finance, for his own good and for the good of his government, to take front before front take them, and to immediately begin discussions with the various trade unions on their long outstanding negotiations. A debt is a debt and it must be repaid.
And he's calling on the government to increase funding to the industrial court. Mr. ROGET said there are 20 vacancies out of 22 positions for verbatim reporters, shortages of secretaries, clerks and other staff.